dessert for everyone is a pudding, a milk pudding, vanilla, chocolate, caramel, there's all kinds of them. They can be used in many ways as a pudding to make trifle. They can be used as a little thickener with pie, lots of ways that milk and eggs can be used. And it's really a good thing to do if you have a member of your family who doesn't like to drink milk. Some of them maybe don't like the taste, or for some reason or other you have trouble getting the quantity of milk into them that you need. Think of ways to get this into their diet, and cooking milk in pudding form and in dessert form is an excellent way to make sure they get all the calcium that they need. Vanilla pudding is the basic pudding, and that's the one that we're going to make today. We're going to use the heavy saucepan, and it's very simple because we just put everything in here. So 1/4 cup of sugar, 5 tablespoons of cornstarch. Excuse me, 3 tablespoons of cornstarch. It would be 5 tablespoons of flour. Flour and cornstarch are thickeners as well as eggs, but eggs give flavor as well. Why I use cornstarch? It gives just a little nicer flavor, and in some products it gives a little clearer texture as well. Cornstarch is really the flour part of the corn grain, and it's a very powerful thickener. It thickens twice the thickness of flour. 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Salt is used in products to just bring out the natural flavors. You don't need very much, but you do need some. 2 eggs. Now, if you were making fluffy vanilla pudding, you would separate the eggs and reserve the whites, and then you can fold the whites in later. But we're making the easy route, just plain, clean vanilla. And 1/4 cup of water. The water is really, at this point, is just to help you get a little water in here in order to mix this really well. Now all we have to add to this is the milk. We will use the milk powder, and we can use a little more milk powder, which makes your product a little bit richer, but not rich with fat, rich with calcium and proteins and the nutrients that are in your milk. Now we need 1 3/4 cups to make up a total of 2 cups of water. You want your proportions to be accurate because you've got thickeners in there which are going to thicken just a certain quantity of liquid. Mix your milk powder in, and your water, and stir. And I like my whisk. Now we're going to heat it. Cooking milk is a little bit tricky in that you don't want to have your temperature too hot. Okay, over to the stove. Now you never walk away from a milk pudding. You've got to keep stirring it. You stir back and forth and back and forth. With your wooden spoon you can feel the thickening that's happening on the bottom. Well, you want to make sure that that gets moved, and you go round like this, and then back and forth, go in a figure 8 if you like, but then back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Cook it for about 2 or 3 minutes after it started to thicken, because it just cooks the flour and the cornstarch well. You don't want a raw taste, so that you're feeling it. Now when it starts to thicken, you'll see it starting to thicken here on the end of your spoon, and that's when you want to get in and make sure that you're stirring quickly. And after you've cooked it for 2 or 3 minutes and it isn't getting any thicker, then you know that it's thickened as much as it's going to. Remove it from the heat, and now we put the vanilla in. You get much better flavor in vanilla. It's usually added after the cooking phase because the flavor cooks out of it. if you put it in any earlier. So often things that are added after the cooking period. The next step is, how do we stop this skin that forms over the top? And that happens during the cooling process. So there's several things you can do. If you want to be fast, you can take it to the sink and put some cold water in the sink, and then you can stand and stir with the cold water in here. And as soon as you see the steam stop coming, you know that it's cool enough to set it aside and use. Or you can simply leave it in the pan and put the lid on it. Because something that is covered, you see, the heat comes up and the steam hits the top of the lid, goes back down, and the top doesn't dry out. So that's another way if you've got time to do that. If you're kind of in a hurry for it and you'd like to use it right away, you can put it into your serving dishes. And here is where we were going to add some bananas. You could slice some bananas into it, but I would wait until the pudding is cold before I would do that. But in order to stop the skin from forming, get your faithful plastic wrap out and put it over top tight, like this. Now here's another trick for you to do. Try and find little plastic bottles when save them, because they're so useful for children's lunches. And you know those pudding mixes that you buy, you can make your own pudding mix. So we can put some pudding into this container here, or in this container. And putting the lids on right away, the skin won't form on them. And now you've got some pudding, and then put it in the children's lunch boxes for school. We'll put sliced bananas in there if we'd like to, or just eat as is. There's many, many varieties, chocolate, caramel, and other things that you can make.